Hello, friends, and welcome to Pour and Explore wine, food, and travel stories from around the world. I'm Nick Elliott, the Wine Guy. This is where we sip, savor, and wander through the world of wine, explore incredible food, and uncover the stories behind unforgettable destinations. Each week, you'll hear engaging conversations with wine pros, chefs, travelers, and fellow enthusiasts, plus educational episodes to help you sip smarter and explore deeper. So, grab a glass, pull up a chair, and let's pour, explore, and celebrate the good life. Let's dive in. All right, everyone, welcome back to Pour and Explore. Today's episode is all about more of those raw realities of travel and having the bravery to step into the unknown. We often see glossy side of hospitality, of the hospitality and travel industry, but getting from point A to point B can be a real challenge for some folks, especially if you're navigating the world with a hidden disability. My guest today is the incredibly inspiring Michelle Steiner, who I actually connected with through a Facebook podcast group. Michelle is a writer, a paraeducator, and a talented nature photographer. She recently took her very first solo flight, and she is joining us here today to share her story. We talk about real world grit, the real world grit that is required to navigate an airport when you live with dyscalculia, limited hand dexterity, visual perception issues, and so many more topics we're going to talk about today. Michelle drops some amazing street smart advice on how to advocate for the accommodations that you deserve, from utilizing TSA flight ambassadors to wearing a hidden sunflower lanyard to make sure that you're getting all of your needs met. We also discuss how her inability to drive led her passion for photography, allowing her to get off of the pavement, slow down, and truly notice the hidden beauty in nature. And of course, we talk about wine. Michelle shares her favorite everyday pairing, and it's a pairing that perfectly embodies my ultimate rule: drink what you like. So let's leave the snobbery at the door, everyone. Pull up a chair and learn something new. Here is my conversation with Michelle Steiner. Michelle, thank you so very much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Absolutely. We met each other on Facebook, and you
Yes.
reached out to me in one of our podcast groups that we both belong to. So I'm so excited to have you on the show after learning about your story and some of the fun things that you've done over the last few years. Definitely wanted to have you on Pour and Explore. So I'm excited for you to be here. You mentioned that you took your first solo trip recently, and that's kind of what piqued my interest in chatting with you, because as someone with a disability, it's you know uh, uh, it can be challenging, I'm sure. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But what really gave you the spark to say, you know what, Michelle, you got to do this. I'm doing this. What was the impetus for that?
I think that spark was that I always wanted to be able to definitely help people. I mean, I knew that I would be going there and I would be helping my friend out, but I think have that thing to help other people, but also to be able to take that trip. Not have with having a disability and not being able to drive. I never had a lot of those opportunities to go and say, "Okay, I'm gonna go take this trip across the country," or "I'm gonna go, travel to this place on my own." My husband and I love to travel,
Mm,
but a lot of that is with him, and we work together, and I do rely a lot on that, and I thought, "I'm going to do this. This is something that I need to do," and it was a lot of research based on how to make that success.
absolutely, absolutely. And what were some of the things that you found along the way in doing that research that really helped you along?
One of the first things we did before I went on the trip was a lot of researching what I was going to be doing. I only took one plane ride before. So my husband and I watch videos on YouTube on how you do bag check or how you go through TSA, how you do that where you check in, where you do your luggage and
Mm,
that sort of thing. We also have a chance to look at different airports online and just
mm,
to kind of get an idea what the layout was. So that was some of the prep work. I also researched some of the programs that were available.
mm,
I found a flight ambassador program that was available at the airport I was flying out from. And that person would help you get through TSA, helps you if you're inexperienced with travel, how to navigate the airport. And it's not just for people with disabilities. She said sometimes she has celebrities that they have to navigate the airport. So people weren't bothering them and they're able to get their plane and go to whatever destination they need to go.
right.
So that was, yeah. I also had a sunflower lanyard, and it's called the Hidden Sunflower, and it's a lanyard that you can get for free.
Mhm.
And when people see that lanyard, they're to know the staff that person has an invisible disability and they might need some more time and some more compassion with that. And whenever I got that, the the airport that I flew out on, it was a new program. So a lot of people weren't familiar with it. Even TSA was like, why do you have this lanyard? You have to take this off. And it was okay with that. I also did things such as pre-boarding. Actually, I had my flight ambassador talk to the airline and they got me in one of the other places to be able to board with priority boarding. And I can remember that was a good thing because there was another woman in our group and her son, and they were both going to the convention, and her son had Down syndrome. And she didn't know that you should talk with the airline. So they were
Mhm.
one of the last ones on, and the flight was packed. And she didn't get to sit next with her son, and nobody would give up their seat. And this was a kid.
It's a bonus.
Yeah, and thanks to the information with talking with her, whenever we came back from the trip, she was the one that she was standing right with me in pre-boarding that day.
Well, so heartening to know that,
Mhm.
airlines and airports have these programs available to them, or at least some. Would you mind
Mhm.
sharing the airline that you took? Do you recall what the airline was that you took?
Yes, I took Southwest.
Southwest. Huh?
And and there's even a program my husband and I might do in the future, the next time we fly. It is you if you get their if you get their line of credit.
Mhm.
And let's say you have a disability and whoever goes along with you, your husband, your mom, your dad, if they're going to help you and act as a caregiver, they get a free ticket to go on the
Oh,
plane.
wow. Okay.
So we're
Awesome.
like,
Awesome.
next time we fly, we're really considering doing that because my husband does help me a lot on things like that. And it's not a lot of physical work, but it's just more he's there if I can't get my seatbelt. He's there. I mean, I did have to advocate for myself when I couldn't get that working because I have limited hand dexterity as well. But if there's an emergency, he can help me with processing a lot of what's going on too. But so I think that's definitely one of the programs that's available on the airline with that.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think that would be extremely helpful to anyone who does travel that doesn't
Mhm.
know about it, or people who might be intimidated by travel, not understanding that those programs are available to them. So, if you're listening to this and you know anyone who, has a disability, invisible or not, that needs a little extra help, while you're at the airport, please let them know about these programs. And I'm so glad to hear that Southwest is doing them, and I would imagine that some of the other larger airlines would have similar
Mhm.
programs. I would. Oh,
Yes.
fantastic! So you and your husband love to travel together as well. Give us some highlight destinations that the two of you have seen on your travels.
We have done a lot of trips to New York City. That has been one of our favorites. We had our honeymoon, but we also have done a lot of other trips there before and after we got married. Chicago was another trip, and that was actually my first flight. So that always had a special memory to that. We've also have gone to Virginia and got to see the Shenandoah Mountain at the park there. And we got to go see that. Another highlight, Washington, D.C. I think that was one of the first trips we went on together. And I can remember just being able to take advantage of a lot of the free museums that they offer. I thought that's another perk for us too. We try to look for places that are free. We also have a membership that we'll be updating soon with the reciprocal museums and
Mhm.
different destinations. And for paying a very nominal fee per yearly, you can get into free for a lot of these places. And some of them are just about an hour away from us that we go to locally. But it's just a really nice way to be able to travel and to be able to see the world and to do a lot of those things. We're always looking for new places to
Mhm.
be able to go.
Absolutely. You're there in Western Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has a lot of beautiful places. Erie is nearby. You've got,
Yes.
Cleveland
Mhm.
and, Ohio. You've got West Virginia, beautiful places in West Virginia to see, and those are just day trips. It's awesome. Yeah.
We do a lot of those. Yeah, throughout the year,
Yeah.
we do a lot of those.
Mm. So, thinking about being on the road and, doing these travels, every trip comes with little surprises. I
Mhm.
travel a lot myself, as everyone knows, and, there's always a little hiccup here or there. Can you share a moment with us that is something we haven't talked about yet? Can you share a moment that, was a challenge, for you, getting out there on the road? And how you turn that challenge around into maybe something positive.
I can remember probably just something that was definitely a memory of ours. It was on our honeymoon,
Mm,
and we were coming home, and my husband, he loves the mountains, he loves all the parks and everything like that. So we went to Bald Eagle State Forest, and we were on a trail for about or we were driving for about 3 hours with no cell phone service. And that was and there no rails, and so that was a little bit different. Then we came up to a sign that, well, we always remember. It was drivable trail. We didn't feel like going and taking that risk, but it was a challenge because I thought, oh my gosh, every single scary movie that I watched just kind of played through my mind as we're driving here. And I thought, what happens if we break down? What happens if I don't have cell service? Well, yeah. And luckily we were fine. And we had just those funny memories of going there and just traveling with that.
yeah, and having a good time. I'm sure there
Yes.
were a lot of laughs
Yes.
and great memories despite the eerie music playing in the Oh, fantastic. Well, speaking of nature, you are caught in nature out there. You are an avid nature photographer. I've seen a lot of your work. You really do pull photos. How did that come about? Is that something you've been doing for a long time or a more recent hobby?
I think that is something that came about, something I put on the shelf a long time ago. I remember I showed somebody a picture that I took at prom, and it was at a venue, and there was a picture of a potted plant, or there was a tree. And everybody asked, why'd you take a picture of a tree? Except there was one woman that said, that's just perspective. And I put it on the shelf for a lot of years. I thought, no, I'm a writer. I'm not really an artist. I can't draw a straight line. It's just not I'm not an artist. And then my husband and I were at a wedding, and on the way home, we stopped at a cemetery, and beautiful headstones had a beautiful angel statue. And I decided I'm going to take this picture of this angel. And I had a friend that looked at him and she was like, oh, where was this at? These are fabulous. And I thought, then the person who told me was very particular. She didn't flatter people. She said how things were. So I thought, well, this must be good. So I entered it into a show. and it got an honorable mention.
Nice.
And that just encouraged me to start taking more pictures and entering into shows. And then I started taking pictures of flowers because I can't drive because of my disability. So when I don't have a ride to get somewhere, I get that chance to stop and smell the roses.
Mm.
And people will tell me, "Well, you bring out the details in a flower that I don't see." And I started noticing things that I would miss. People will miss if they're driving. And rather than being sad when I'm on my walks, I get that chance to just slow down and take those pictures. And if I was driving a car, there'd be so much I would miss.
Absolutely. Well, I want to talk about your writing in a second, but I think there's a making of a beautiful coffee table book right there called Stop and Smell the Rose.
Like that idea.
Michelle
I like
Steiner.
that.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your writings. Tell the audience, what you're doing, where they can find the things that you've written.
Sure. I have a blog called Michelle's Mission where I write about my life with a learning disability and I post pictures from my walks and my flowers and some of the other adventures that I've been on as well. And I try to use a lot of nature analogies to explain what having a learning disability is like. And I might tie it in with the process of accepting my disability as like a flower that's blooming, or butterflies are another big thing of mine, as you can tell. I talk about
Right.
the transformation that a butterfly goes through. And I try to make it where it's simple enough for people maybe that have a disability or people who aren't familiar with them to understand, but it doesn't talk
Mhm.
down to people either. I just try to make that relatable. And a lot of times people say, well, that's my life and that's my
Mhm.
story. And I thought that I was the only one that struggled with that. And when I share my story, a lot of people can relate to that as well. And for anyone interested, you can find me at my blog, www.michellesmission.com.
Yeah, it's a great website. A lot of great information. It's got the website has connections to Michelle's social links as well. Check out her Instagram with all of the beautiful photos, and her Facebook is on there as well. So please definitely do that. Um, let's switch back to travel a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about that. First off, would you mind sharing about your disability with the audience?
Sure. I have a math disability called dyscalculia,
Mhm.
which makes it hard for me to understand how numbers work.
Mhm.
And but it goes beyond a classroom. I mean, I might be have a lot of difficulty with sitting there and trying to understand that, but I confuse my right from my left. And then directional concepts like east, south, and west are really hard for me to understand. I can't read the face of a clock, so that makes it that difficult. I also have visual perception issues, but that's in my brain, not in my eyes, so I'm
Mhm.
not able to drive because of that. And I also have limited hand dexterity, and they didn't find that out until I was an adult. So that can make
Mm.
things really difficult with using my fine motor skills.
Sure, absolutely. As I mentioned to you when we were first chatting, my son has some learning disabilities as well, and similar to you, and a lot of people have dyslexia, which is the same general family as dyscal- dyscalculia. I think he also has dysgraphia, which is that fine
Mhm.
motor skill in your hand. So that's always been a huge struggle for him, tying his shoes or, tightening the straps on his backpack, and, when he was going to school or, even holding a pencil in order to write something, that can be very, very difficult for him, you know, so I definitely empathize
Mhm.
with your situation, seeing him grow up, you know, with similar struggles and yeah, even as his father, someone who,
Sure.
witnessed it, it's we want to say, just do it, and so like you said, this is in your brain, this is something that you can't learn overnight. or you might not even, so just,
Mhm.
helping the audience understand that these are real things, and having a little empathy for people who are going through what you're going through, what my son goes through, and I'm so happy that, you got, this amazing calling in your life to help people with similar struggles. And I absolutely appreciate you coming from a parent who has a child with similar struggles. So I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, when you're traveling, well, I guess my first question would be, have you been outside the country yet?
No, I haven't. That's on my bucket list to do
Okay,
that.
perfect. And that was going to be my question is, on this show, I talk about traveling a lot, and whether that's traveling to, taking a walk around the block, as you are so apt to do, and in your pictures, or flying to the southern hemisphere, around the world, kind of thing. It doesn't matter, as long as you're getting outside of your little box, your little bubble that you're in. Tell me about some of the bucket list destinations that you and your husband are talking about getting out to.
We definitely would like to go to the Canadian side, Niagara Falls. We've
Yeah.
done the US side a number of different times. And we haven't really talked too much about that. I think about other than that. I think right now we just want
Okay.
to get to, yeah, start out with that. And then we might go and do some other European trips too. I mean, I think that might be something in the future.
Absolutely. There's so much beauty in the world. Can you can see it on you can go and Google uh beautiful cities in Italy, or,
Yes.
great
Mhm.
towns in China, or whatever the case is, but there really is no comparison to seeing it for yourself. So, I really hope that you can get out there, and that one, I wish for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. As someone who loves to travel, and gets out there so often, do you have do you have any travel goals beyond just getting there? Are you looking to see a certain thing, a certain monument? You mentioned Niagara Falls. That's a beautiful location. If there was one thing in the world that Michelle has to see, what is it going to be?
I don't know if I have it down to one thing. I
Okay.
all I can say is when we get to a place, my husband and I, we kind of have different styles. He is very low key about things. He loves to relax more. I'm more like, I want to go and I'll go and locate, okay, what museums are there? What botanical gardens? What zoos? What is out there? So sometimes I have to make a list of about 10 things that we want to do. And he'll be like, okay, I'm out of these 10 things. These are, maybe we'll narrow the list down to five, or maybe we'll do it on this thing. Actually, there is one thing that I definitely want to see. And it may happen in the fall. It
Mhm.
looks like it is going to, Longwood Gardens near Philadelphia, right
Oh,
outside.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
Never have been there myself. I've seen many beautiful pictures from friends. I've seen we
Yes.
books on it, and that is one place that we are planning on going to in the fall.
Yep. So, as a Philly kid, born and bred, I've been to Longwood Gardens, and it is just an absolutely beautiful place. If you don't know, gorgeous botanical garden, museum,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it, just south of Philadelphia, almost on the border of Delaware and Maryland. And it really is such a nice place. So, yeah, I think that's an awesome destination to have in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. What has there been any? I asked about challenges earlier, but I want to go beyond challenges. I want to I want to talk about how you've overcome those challenges, and not so much overcome it. It's by sheer will. Is there anything that you came to the face of and just said, you know what, I'm not going to let that stop me from experiencing this thing?
Exactly. I think a lot of that has been something that I've done with determination since I was young. I knew I wanted to go to college, and I had people that a learning support teacher who told me, "Well, I don't think you can handle college because of your math," and wanted me to go to a trade school. Nothing there really interested me.
Mm.
And some of those programs would have been a lot harder for me with my disability. I had a psychiatrist that told me once I decided I wanted to go to college, that based on my scores, I most likely wouldn't go beyond community college. I get to community college and I have more stigma where disability accommodations were considered cheating. And I was told I would have limited job choices by an advisor. So that was really hard hearing all that. But I went through afraid. I was not a very positive, happy person, but I went through and I did it. And I was able to get my associate's degree in early childhood education. I was able to move out on my own for a while, work some temp jobs. I like being in a central location, but I always wanted more for myself and be careful what you wish for because it just might come true. And I had to move back into my parents' house for financial reasons for a while. And my job was
Mhm.
downsizing. And I thought, this is the time to go back to school. So I carefully researched programs and I found a program that had the least amount of math and science possible, had a program I loved, and had disability accommodations. And by that point, I already had that experience at community college and I used all the services and I advocated for myself and I did much better. I made Dean's List first semester and I was able to graduate with the bachelor's degree. Another dream of mine that I came true was I found my husband. People told me that I may never find love because of having one. And I even had my ex was breaking up with me and he said, "I think you could drive if you wanted to. I'm taking you places." And I was really discouraged for a long time, but that dream happened. And I people didn't think I could have a job that I wanted to have. I mean, it was difficult to be able to find one that was disability friendly, and I've been working as a paraeducator for about 15 years, and I love going in and making a difference, in the lives of the students that I have and having that empathy because I understand that sometimes it's not easy.
Absolutely. Well, definitely you didn't let yeah, hold them back during that journey, and I'm so glad. You mentioned the word accommodation a couple times during that last answer, and I want to talk about that just a little bit. You mentioned you are a paraeducator, and I
Mhm.
think it's important to make it known to the audience, what accommodation means. So I'm talk about it briefly from my
Okay.
layman view, with having a son who had to have accommodations throughout his schooling.
Mhm.
And then I would love for you to touch on that as well, because I think it's important for folks to hear and to know that I would imagine that most or all school districts in the country are legally bound to give your child accommodations when it comes to learning. And what that means is they will have gone through a battery of tests. They will most likely need to see a neuropsychologist as well in order to diagnose, what might be wrong, and I'm talking about physical and mental and learning disability, the whole umbrella. So you will go and you'll get yourself either an IEP or a 504 exam that will put the accommodations in place for your child. And basically, what it means is that the school is required to give your child the accommodation that they need to successfully do that homework, to pass that test, to learn properly.
Mhm.
If they're hearing impaired, that means moving them to the front of the classroom, or sight impaired, moving them to the front of the classroom, giving them headphones if they have ADHD, so they're not distracted. And I'm going to leave it to the expert. Am I explaining this correctly?
You are 100% explaining that the difference between if they have an IEP, that is where the child has a diagnosis where you are giving a written plan where things are and they have goals. Where we have a 504, that is just stating that they have a health impairment, but they're not meeting the goals, but they have it, so we know what to do. So we know to put maybe a child in the front of the room, or we know that if a child comes in with seizures, what signs to look for. We know all those things, but yes, that is perfect. That does really handle all that. And there's so much that goes into it. People don't think about bus transportation or even paraprofessionals. That can be something that can be written in a child's IEP if they need a one-on-one. I've done one work before as well. So
Mm.
it's definitely something that is so important, because I know that if I didn't have those in school, I wouldn't have been able to make it as far as I am today.
Absolutely. Well, God, I'm glad I hit the nail on the head with that one. You know, and I wanted to bring it up because I think it is important for people to know, that,
Mhm.
if you have a child that, has a learning difference, or
Mhm.
some type of disability, there are programs in place in the school system to help them. And if you don't know about those programs, please go ahead and not only advocate for your child, but advocate for yourself as the child's parent, or parents as well. So I think that would be something really, really huge for your family. So I hope you take advantage of those if you find yourself in those situations. Absolutely. One last question, and then we're going to
Yes.
go into the lightning round, Michelle.
Okay.
For listeners who might be doubting themselves, whether it be, a disability, or fear of the unknown, what's one message that you hope they would take away from your story today?
One of the messages that I would hope somebody would take in is that success doesn't always come in the package that we expect, but sometimes it comes in something even better. And it's about learning about ourselves and knowing, okay, what issues somebody might have, and knowing how to advocate and to be able to speak up for themselves.
Awesome. Awesome. That's perfect. That's perfect. And again, head over to Michelle's website. That information will be down in the show notes. So you can check out not only her story, her blog, her beautiful photography. You're going to see all of that on the website, and hit a like when you're over there, or a follow when you're over there on Instagram and Facebook as well. Um, all right, we're completely off the rails here and not talk about anything that we've talked about so far. We need to talk a little bit about wine and the lightning round. What is your favorite wine to have on your dinner table for you and your husband?
I like Red Cat, the very sweet red wine.
Okay. All right. Sweet red wine. That's the deal. I love it. That's what we find on the Steiner table for dinner.
Yes.
Love that. And what are you serving that sweet red wine with?
A lot of times I always make really good salads, and it's just more than just a hunk of iceberg lettuce. I like to sometimes put fruit in that. Sometimes we'll
Oh,
put tons of different vegetables in that salad, and maybe like some kind of chicken with that. I know that's not the wine that goes with that, but it's definitely one of the things we make. Yeah.
no, no, not at all. Not at all. I am the wine guy, and I know
Mhm.
wine intimidates people, but my motto with the wine guy that I have, educating people around the world, about wine and talking about pairings and
Mhm.
things like that, is I don't care what you drink, it's what you drink, what you like. And, as long as you like it, that's the only thing that matters.
Fantastic. Well, Michelle, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm so glad that you reached out to me online. It really was a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. What an incredibly grounding conversation. I want to give a massive thank you to Michelle for being on the show today. Her story is the ultimate proof that stepping out of your comfort zone, whether that's navigating an airport solo for the first time or simply pausing to capture the hidden beauty of a flower, is where the real magic happens. We talk a lot on the show about getting your boots in the dirt and being brave with the unknown. Michelle really does embody that spirit perfectly. She reminds us that travel isn't about perfectly curated itineraries, it's about navigating the realities of the journey, finding the true accommodations that you need to thrive, and of course, transitioning from a mere tourist to someone who truly experiences the world on their own terms. And I loved her approach to wine. Red Cat, sweet red wine with a hearty salad. Why the heck not? Absolutely. If you drink it, you drink what you like. You drink what you like, and that is all that matters. If you found Michelle's story inspiring today, as I did, please go out and check out her blog at michellesmission.com and follow her beautiful photography journey on Instagram as well as Facebook. And while you're at it, make sure you're following me, Nick Elliott, the wine guy. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, of course, my website as well. You're going to find all of those links down below in the show notes. So please check those out. A thumbs up would be awesome. A subscribe would be amazing as well. Thank you so much for your time. We've got some amazing content on the website that you'll check out. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Pour and Explore. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Love to hear your stories or questions. Drop me a message at cheers@thewineguy.vin. That's cheers@thewineguy.vin. Or let's connect on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. Grab those links at thewineguy.vin. Until next time, let's keep wondering and wandering. Cheers, everybody.